Hello students, welcome to Ekam IS Academy. Today we are going to discuss one of the very important current affair issues which is making rounds in the news is the appointment of the new CDS, the Chief of Defence Staff. As we all know, India had gone for its first Chief of Defence Staff in the year 2019 when General Bipin Rawat was appointed as the first Chief of Defence Staff in independent India. However, unluckily in the year 2021 in December we lost our first Chief of Defence Staff in an helicopter crash, right? So ever since then there is a lot of speculations making rounds that who would be the next Chief of Defence Staff. A brief historical perspective to the appointment of Chief of Defence Staff in India. When the Kargil war happened, at the end of the Kargil war, the government appointed a committee that was headed by N. Subramaniam, which was very famous by Kargil Review Committee. So now in this lecture, we will try to identify and try to understand what are the various roles and responsibilities of a Chief of Defence Staff and what are the various changes that the government has brought in recently in the appointment of a Chief of Defence Staff. Before we go into the topic proper, what we will do is initially we will try to understand the overview of how the army functions in the first place, so that we understand the requirement why in the first place there is a requirement of the Chief of Defence Staff. Okay, see, as we all know, when we use this word armed forces, technically we are hinting at three organs of the armed forces, that is the army, the air force and the navy. As we all know, because it is related to the national safety from an external threat, all these three entities report to the Ministry of Defence. Very, very important. They report to the Ministry of Defence. The army reports to the Ministry of Defence, the air force reports to the Ministry of Defence and also the navy reports to the Ministry of Defence. This is the established practice. However, what is happening is whenever these people are making independent recommendations or approaching the Ministry of Defence, both from operational as well as administrative dimensions, they are giving their recommendations in what is called as silos, means independently. It means that what the army is giving recommendation to the Ministry of Defence, the Air Force is not aware of that. What Air Force is giving, Navy is not aware of that. And there is a high probability the person who is sitting in the Ministry of Defence, he may not have the complete understanding of the recommendations given by the Army, Air Force or Navy. We will try to understand this dimension with the help of an example. Say for example, the Army Chief, we call him the Chief of Army Staff. The Army Chief goes to the Ministry of Defence and he says that, sir, I need 500 battle tanks immediately. I perceive that the strength of the Indian Armored Division is reducing in its capability. India needs immediate 500 battle tanks. The same way, Air Force may come, the strength of my fighter aircrafts is depleting gradually. I need minimum 100 fighter aircrafts immediately for the Air Force. The same way, the Naval Chief may also come and recommend certain naval related equipment to the Ministry of Defence. Now, there is a high probability that the Ministry of Defence may not understand to give priority whether to the battle tanks, to the aircrafts, the fighter aircrafts as recommended by the Air Force or to the inventory that the Navy is recommending. So, to avoid this kind of a situation where there is an anomaly, the Government of India established one post and this post came to be known as, very important, came to be known as the Chief of Defence Staff, the CDS. So, now what happens? This appointment was designed with an intention to be as an intermediary between the Army, Air Force and the Navy, because he is a person from the uniformed services, so he may be able to better contemplate, prioritize whom should be given the priority, because as we all know, India is still a developing country. So there is always a paucity of funds to meet all the requirements. Because of this reason, now the CDS will try to see which funds where prioritization needs to be done. So based on that, now the CDS will give recommendation to the Ministry of Defence based on his understanding of the situation. So this is how the army functions, and let me tell you, this role of the CDS here is only non-operational. Anything related to operational requirement, here you must understand that the armed forces, the army and the air force and the navy commanders can directly interact with the Ministry of Defence. So there is no requirement on part of these entities to come through the CDS to meet the Ministry of Defence when it comes to operational requirements. So the line of command is still clear when it comes to operational requirements. Going further, before we go to the other roles and responsibilities of a CDS, we will try to understand the historical perspective of CDS. See, after the World War II, all the Western European countries and some of the Asian countries understood the requirement or the need of having a Chief of Defence Staff as an intermediary, with an intention to bring in more integration of all the armed forces, and also cohesion amongst the armed forces. So with this intention, most of the countries in the Western Europe, countries like United Kingdom, countries like Spain, countries like Italy, countries like United States, they all started having the appointment of Chief of Defence Staff. In some countries in the Asia region, countries like China, countries like Japan, countries like Australia also started having the appointments of Chief of Defence Staff. This was immediately after the Second World War in the early 1950s and the mid 1950s. But however, the important learning of all these countries was, if any country's armed force, if it fights like an integrated unit, then definitely the result of the battle can be changed. So as an integrated unit, if they fight, the results of the battle can be changed. This was seen during the World War II, where United States was very successful in using efficiently the army, the air force and the navy in a joint operation theatre. So it was a learning for the rest of the world that deeper integration of all the three services can change the result of the battlefield. With this intention, many of the countries embrace the office of the appointment of Chief of Defence Staff. With this historical perspective, now let's see what are the roles and responsibilities of a Chief of Defence Staff. Firstly, he is the permanent chairperson of the Chief of Staff Committee. See here, one thing you need to understand that when initially when the armed forces were raised, as I told you, before the appointment of the Chief of Defence Staff, all these commanders, the Chief of the Army, Navy and Air Force, were directly reporting to the Ministry of Defence. But however, in this also there was a appointment called Chief of Staff Committee. Chief of Staff Committee. This, what they were doing is, all the three chiefs were performing the role of the chairman of this Chief of Staff Committee on a rotation basis. So there was no permanency. For 1 year he will be the Chief of Staff Committee, for 1 year he will be the Chief of Staff Committee, for 1 year the naval head will be the Chief of Staff Committee. In this scenario, what was happening was, there was no permanency. So lot of decision making was getting delayed because of this. So once the office of the Chief of Defence Staff was established, it was decided that the Chief of Staff Committee, this appointment will be made the permanent chairman, so that there is a continuity on all the issues related to all the three services. So the first point meaning is that the Chief of Defence Staff will be the permanent chairperson of the Chief of Staff Committee. Secondly, when this appointment was made, one department was what you call introduced in the Ministry of Defence under the name Department of the Military Affairs. So the Chief of Defence Staff was also made the head of this particular department. See, as I told you, the main intention was better integration of the three armed forces with respect to what? With respect to training, with respect to logistics, with respect to procurement, with respect to repairs and other dimensions. So all these dimensions were brought under the purview of the Chief of Defence Staff. Anything related to joint training, he has the authority to give the orders to all the three service chiefs. Then he also was said to be the principal advisor to the MOD only on tri-services matters. Anything where all the three services are involved, he is considered to be the principal advisor. Please underline the word only. Why? Because if it is only related to army, the Chief of Army Staff becomes the principal advisor to the Ministry of Defence. When it is related only to the Air Force, the Air Force Chief becomes the principal advisor to the Ministry of Defence on matters related to Air Force. Likewise for Navy also. And lastly, the Chief of Defence Staff does not hold any military command. It means that the Chief of Defence Staff cannot order the Army, Air Force or Navy to carry out an operational task. The authority to order an operational task even today rests with the Ministry of Defence through the President. The President happens to be the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. Through him, through the Ministry of Defence, the orders related to an operational task are given to all the three services. And recently, because we lost the Chief of Defence Staff in an helicopter crash in the month of December 2021, ever since then, lot of speculation is going around who would become the next Chief of Defence Staff. In the meanwhile, now the government has changed some rules regarding the appointment of the Chief of Defence Staff. In this particular thing, the most important change that has been made is two-dimensional. First is, they said that a Lieutenant General, an Air Marshal and a Vice Admiral can also be considered for the post of Chief of Defence Staff. It means that, as I told you, these three armed forces are headed by the heads of these institutions. The Chief of the Army, like he is a general, full rank general, but now they are saying even a Lieutenant General can be made a Chief of Defence Staff. Likewise in Air Force you have Air Chief Marshal, but they are saying the second senior most officer can also be made the Chief of Defence Staff. Likewise in Navy, the Admiral is the head of the Chief of the Naval Staff. So now they are saying a Vice Admiral, who is the second in the order of ranking, can also be made the Chief of Defence Staff. So this is a very big announcement. The second is, they are trying to say that now even a retired officer can also be made a Chief of Defence Staff. Earlier, only the serving people or the serving officers were eligible to become the Chief of Defence Staff. But with the change of rules, now even a retired officer can also be made a Chief of Defence Staff, provided he is not crossed the age of 62 years. So this is the most important ruling. See, it also opens the door for the second highest active rank officer, as I have told you. But now there comes a problem here. The problem here is, if you appoint a junior when the senior is available as the Chief of Defence Staff, that is where the problem of seniority comes into play. If the Chief of Army Staff is there, who is a full star general, if you happen to make a Lieutenant General the Chief of Defence Staff, it means the junior has superseded the senior. to become the CDS. Maybe that wholehearted support may not come from the chief when in the functioning of the Chief of Defence Staff. There would be some problems because Army is one institution that generally works very strictly on the lines of seniority, like your judiciary. The same way Army also works very strictly on the lines of seniority. So we have to wait and watch how the Army accepts that a junior being elevated to a senior appointment in the hierarchy. This we need to wait and watch. See, again, as I told you, the recently retired chiefs and vice chiefs can also be eligible provided they do not cross the age of 62, and it also said that the government may extend the service of the Chief of Defence Staff for such a period as it may deem necessary, subject to a maximum age of 65 years. Say for example, if somebody is in the age of 59 years, if the age limit is 65, maybe he continues to work till the age of 65 years, thereby he would be serving for a period of 6 years. So all these contemplations or the speculations are going on as regards the appointment of Chief of Defence Staff. For good about 6 months, this is a very critical post and position. Keeping this particular position vacant for a longer period may undo the hard work that was done by Bipin Rawat in deeply integrating these three services. So it is high time that without losing any time further, we should go for the appointment of the Chief of Defence Staff. So we will have to wait and watch whom finally the government may appoint as the Chief of Defence Staff. Thank you very much.